Welcome to Built-In Boots, the podcast that takes you behind the scenes at the DDS companies, where we're laying the foundation for tomorrow's infrastructure. In each episode, we bring you the real stories from the people who make it all happen, honoring everyone from the field to the front office. Join us as we explore their journeys, uncover the lessons they've learned, and show you how to build a rewarding career in the civil construction industry. If you're ready to learn from those who've built their success from the ground up, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
When you picture a leader in the utilities industry, you might imagine someone who's been around for decades. But what if we told you that success isn't about how many years you've been clocked in? It's about drive, passion, and a willingness to learn. Welcome to the Built-In Boots podcast. I'm Jordan Potter.
And I'm Mark Payne. Our roadshow series is cruising through New York State, and this stop lands us on Dylan Bird's active job site. He's just 31 years old and already a standout gas distribution foreman. Joining him is 26-year-old Matt Brown, a fast-rising supervisor from our CNY office.
These two are proof that age is no barrier in utility construction. If you've ever thought that you needed to be older or have decades of experience to thrive, Dylan and Matt are here to bust that myth.
So whether you're just starting out or you're looking to level up in your career, stay tuned. Because if these guys can dominate their craft and their careers, what's stopping you?
So here's your challenge. Press play on this episode, listen closely, and then ask yourself this. If Dylan and Matt can climb to the top while still so young, what's holding you back from doing the same?
We are in Endicott, New York.
I was going to say Binghamton because it's all one big place to me.
It does kind of all blend together.
And well.
And well, there we go.
We are joined today with two guests on the show today. We have Gas Distribution Foreman Dylan Bird. Also joined with us today is project manager / supervisor / all the other titles, Mr. Matthew Brown.
How's it going?
Going really good. How are you guys doing today?
I'm good. If the rain would hold off, it would be a little bit better, but...
Yeah,
for sure.
So for the people that are listening in, we literally are standing at the training trailer right now under the awning, and about 15 minutes ago, it was just completely downpouring. So the sun is poking out right now, which is really nice. Crew is working behind us, so if you hear the banging of the excavator bucket, that is what you will hear. Hopefully the traffic will stay away from us for a little bit too. So let's kick this thing off. So for the listeners that might be joining us for the first time, the Built-In Boots podcast is really the show to kind of share the stories of the people and the projects and the things that we're doing here at the DDS companies. Really just kind of share the stories of all the things that are going on throughout the company. We're kind of going through a little road show here over the past couple days and the next few days. And we're really trying to hit as many crews as we can. So Dylan, you are what is your title, and maybe tell us a little bit about yourself?
Natural gas foreman. God, I've been doing this for going on 12 years now, I think. So the opportunities that have been presented to me are incredible. I don't think I would change my career path at all from where I come from to where I am now.
Yeah, it's pretty incredible to see your career growth. So you started with DDS how long ago?
2013.
2013.
As a laborer.
Wow. Dang.
Never even kicked a shovel probably prior to that. I grew up on a farm, but nothing like what I'm doing now. Like I said, I wouldn't change it.
Yeah, that's pretty incredible to see your career unfold over the course of the years. I know you and I have known each other for the past, I don't know, what would you say, 5 years, maybe 6 years?
Yeah, 5 or 6.
Yeah,
at least.
Yep. And I think when I first met you, you had a few words of choices to say to me.
I was probably fusing pipe.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
I wasn't going to let somebody in a polo tell me how to fuse pipe.
Yeah, I like my polos. Matt, let's switch over to you. So you've been with DDS for how long?
I started in May of 2024, so a little over a year.
Very cool.
Yeah, Central New York Gas Distribution Project Manager / Supervisor.
Yeah. So let's rewind back to 2024. I remember you and I sitting together and talking, but this kind of goes back to our more of our outreach. This is really where this stemmed from. So you found, how did you kind of hear about DDS? Like, walk us through that whole process of how you even heard about us and how you kind of came to join the team.
So I was in school at Alfred State College. It was probably my senior year. Went to a career fair, walked around, saw the DDS table, kind of seen the trucks around before. So I stopped, talked with Justin Cirqua, kind of figured out what all they did. And then DDX actually came back like a couple weeks later and kind of gave a presentation to one of the classes. And after that, it kind of just all went down, got an interviewed with you and Jeff, and then here I am today.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So you were studying what at college?
So my major was construction management, basically all the back end of it, estimating, scheduling, the contracts, all that kind of stuff. I mean, location was a big thing. The Cortland office was close by. I have family in Rochester too, so anywhere I could go. And then luckily you guys needed a spot in Cortland, so I took it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's really cool. And it's cool that you were thinking back to like the career fair and stuff like that. It's not very often I can get Justin to one of those just because he's so busy. So it kind of lined up.
Yeah, it was quick. We talked and then I left and then he called me, came back in, we talked some more, and then he handed his resume out and
Yeah.
got a call from Jordan and Jeff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome.
No, I'm pretty sure back in that time period, I'm pretty sure Justin was still the general manager for
Yes,
our
he
heavy
was.
civil
He was in
construction
heavy
side.
civil.
So here he is. He's recruiting and going out there trying to recruit for the civil side. He's probably trying to get you to come on the civil side as a PM or a project engineer. I'm not even sure how that unfolded more or less and how I got involved, but I grabbed right a hold of it. So I'm glad we were able to get you on the team and on board. When you first joined DDS, I think you kind of came on as like a junior level project manager. We call those project engineers. Can you just explain what a project engineer does on the utility side?
So when I started as a project engineer, a lot of the work was in the office, kind of doing takeoffs of the projects. And then my first project I had was PMTT inline inspections. So it was basically all over the state, where all we were doing was digging up and exposing the main, and another company was putting a camera down the main to inspect for faulty service tees and all that. So we did that for probably close to a year. There was over probably close to 300 inspection sites that we had to go to.
Oddly enough, that was with me.
Yeah.
That was,
you were one
that
of
was
them.
when we first met.
And it ranged from Brewster area all the way to Plattsburgh and then all the way out to Buffalo, everywhere in between.
Yeah, I remember getting the phone call from Jeff Bubb and saying, hey, we got a project coming up that's going to land on our plates that we need to take care of. It's high priority. I need you to basically figure out how to get it done type of thing. We had a stack of papers about, I don't know, 10 to 12 inches tall, all rubber banded together. It was from the engineering group, our DDS engineering group up in Rochester. Got delivered to our office here in Cortland, and I take that whole stack of paper. I didn't even look at it. I walked down to Matt's office, and I'm like, this is your baby now.
Welcome, right?
So welcome to DDS. This is your baby.
A lot of long days going through that stack of papers, trying to figure out schedule and all that, where we weren't driving everywhere in one day, where I could just schedule a couple close by and then the next day go somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that was a pretty unique project. I'll say, it's not something that we've ever done before as a service that we provided to our customer, which in this case it was NYSEG and RG&E. It happened in both territories, in the Rochester territories, and then in multiple NYSEG territories across the state. Across the state. To give the audience a little bit of insight about that project and what that actually looked like was, to your point, there was individual dig sites, random locations across all of New York State. And the scope of the work was to simply just dig a small excavation so that a crew could go in the hole, mount some fittings to the main so that they can do a camera inspection. They were looking for faulty tees that were installed in the past 20, 25 years, I think. And that was the vintage of that time period. But the logistics, so it sounds simple. It's like, yeah, you're just digging a hole, right? No, you're not. You are just digging a hole, but you're also mobilizing a crew to multiple locations. You've got in-road, off-road excavations that have to be, thought out. You've got travel time, that you've got to calculate into that day. Some days you were only able to hit one location just because geographically it doesn't make sense to be able to complete and actually mobilize to another site. So what were some of the things that you learned, I guess, through that process coming through that?
I guess the biggest one was probably time management, just trying to have a productive day and then factoring in, like you said, the drive time to those sites and then productions, at least getting one done a day. If we could do more, we would do more. But a lot of it, like with Dylan, he had a couple hours drive back home. So we
Right.
tried to schedule them close by. And then once we hit all the ones close by, that's where we had to start traveling a lot longer.
Dylan, do you remember any challenging times or any challenges that you had to overcome through that project specifically with Matt?
I think it was just like he said, dealing with all the driving. There was mornings where I was leaving my house at 4:30 to go to places like Geneva, which is a 2.5-hour drive from my house, and all the way up to Waterloo. And even when we were up by that lake, I know there was the one day we'd be on the west side of the lake, and then in the afternoon we'd have to travel all the way to the east side of the lake just to get 2 done if possible. And then dealing with the city guys and all of that, because sometimes they wanted them blacktopped all in one day. So we had to make the decision whether we did 3 or 4 inspections a day, or if we did 1 or 2 and then tried to focus getting the blacktop and the binder down and everything.
Yeah.
And I know Matt's not leading on. It turned into a big headache after a while, just because of the logistics of everything and trying to keep it moving. I mean, you got to think ULC, which was the third-party company that did the camera, wasn't cheap to be there for the day.
Yeah.
So we
had
wanted
at
to
least
keep
get
them
Yep.
as busy as possible. And I mean, there was days where it was downpouring and we would just work through it, just because if not, they were going to go back to the city where they're from.
Yeah.
And then it was a 2 or 3 day hiatus without them coming back, and they would put the schedule behind. But I think Matt did a good job just with the dig safes alone and calling in multiple areas all for the same day.
Yeah.
So props to him for that, because I wouldn't want to deal with that.
Yeah. I think that was a lesson that we learned early on, Matt. If I remember correctly, it was part of the engineered drawings that were a lot of these municipalities that we were working in. We actually had to look really strategically at those drawings, figure out where the actual dig site was versus where the actual target inspection is. It could be 200 or 300 feet down the line that you were actually digging in. So that way that camera, what was the range on that camera? Do you remember?
So the camera would go, I think, 300 feet, but in smaller diameter pipe, like 2-inch, you couldn't push through 90s. So it was kind of a headache. And a lot of the places we went to were dead end mains too. And the target was only 1 T, was all they wanted to look at, but they wanted to get as many as possible throughout that scope. So we had to make a lot of decisions on the best spot to even put the T to begin with to keep everybody happy. Sometimes it was out of the dig safe and we would have to fall back and go to a different site. And like I said, Matt did a good job at keeping the dig safes up to date too, so that we could bounce around a lot just to keep moving and keep production going.
Yeah, I'd say that was probably the hardest part, was trying to figure out where we needed to dig. Because like he said, where they wanted us to dig wasn't always possible, whether it be in someone's backyard right next to a fence or something, because we had to open up, it was like a 3-foot hole.
Oh yeah.
To get them in there to put their cameras on. So just trying to keep up with the dig safes to be able to schedule them so they could just go out there and dig and complete the inspection.
Well, I think those types of projects, when they get thrown at us, I mean, Dylan, you know what it's like being out here every single day. There's a million different things that get thrown at you. I think it would be important to know that it's projects like that kind of stretch you. They force you to kind of grow a little bit. They force you to kind of think outside the box, think a little bit more creative through projects like that. And even if I look back at my own career, there's always been projects that have taught me something. And I think it's important to make sure you kind of take those lessons with you as you continue to move forward in your career. So props to you guys both for crushing that project. I know, Dylan, you were part of it in the Southern Tier territory, but Matt, you did an excellent job executing on that project from heel to toe, start to finish, and being able to get that across the finish line. And I think we did a job well done. The customer was happy, and you guys crushed it. So good job.
Yeah, this type of construction work, for the listeners that aren't really familiar with the utility side, something that a lot of folks don't take into consideration are the logistics. The logistics are huge. Making sure that you have the right equipment in the right place at the right time, making sure everything is inspected, making sure that all your paperwork is done ahead of time, all your project planning, U-digs, like you were talking about, the dig safes, trying to have all that align and dealing with any breakdowns as they come, trying to deal with, personnel that want to take a day off or something like that. That's all part of it, right? Life is still happening outside of that, but you're still trying to stay on schedule. You mentioned the challenge with the third party coming in and doing the inspection. And if you shut them down for a day, they're going to bounce and go do something else or go home or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple times where they just left and they'd go back to the city, and we'd see them in 2-3 weeks.
Yeah.
The one time we shut down, because we weren't their only priority either. I got to know those guys pretty well, and they were doing 24, 36-inch diameter cast iron encapsulation in downtown Manhattan.
Oh, yeah.
They would go out of country, Australia. I know they had a crew over in New Zealand doing the same thing, encapsulation on a 48-inch cast iron main.
Wow.
Wow.
It was a scope of work that I've never seen before, and after talking with them, I mean, it was impressive.
Yeah, absolutely.
The amount of work that they handled and how they did it.
Yeah, it's impressive. That the whole talent pool just blows my mind that it even exists out there.
Yeah, I mean, you think what you do is specialized, but there's always somebody out there that's doing something bigger and better than we are.
Oh, for sure.
I learned a lot with them too, though. I'm always open to learning new stuff.
Yeah.
Just to have a broader horizon too of what goes on around me.
Right. To see those other avenues that you didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
That's always the interesting part for me. I'm always looking at it like, hey, this is something new. I've never seen this before, but this does exist. And then the other part of that, and kind of the goal of this podcast, is to be able to highlight some of that. 20 years ago, would you have known that existed? 10 years ago, would you have known that existed?
I don't.
Right?
And when I first started here, there was nothing.
Yeah, it was ditch and shovel, right?
From where we were to where we are now. I mean, it's a drastic change.
Yeah.
If you would have told me 11 years ago, this is how the construction industry for gas distribution would be, I probably would have laughed at you.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's become more specialized now that you can't just get an average Joe out here to do it anymore. You have to be able to think and stay on top of your feet, because if not, I've learned over the years, it's sink or swim.
Yeah.
There's really no in-betweens. You have to be able to adapt out here, because there's too much going on and a lot that gets thrown at you that nobody really tells you is going to get thrown at you.
Yeah.
That a lot of people that haven't even dealt with yet. Especially this year, we're dealing with a lot of new things happening out here with the parts situation and
material changes.
Yeah, and the switch to high density, that you constantly have to change your plan of action for the day, and you're always bouncing around, but there's a job to do and you got to get it done. So
right.
That's right.
Stay productive and get it done the right way.
Yeah, for sure.
So you had said something a moment ago, and I just want to highlight on it about learning and having that mentality of being a student. I think that's really important. When you look at your career history, your career path, Dylan, I mean, you said, how old were you when you started in the business?
I started here in 2013. I was 20 years old.
So you were 20 years old.
I wasn't even old enough to drink yet. And I started at a time where it was a lot of older guys and you could yell. And I realized early on that I didn't want to get yelled at and I didn't want to kick a shovel forever. So it was either I paid attention, I learned and I worked, or I was going to drown.
Yeah.
Right.
And thankfully I did, because it's putting me in a position now that I can be proud of it. And
And I think you can be proud of it, because it's pretty amazing
accomplishment. Like I said, one day I'm going to have Jordan's job. So
there you
it's
go.
only a matter of time.
Take it, man. Take it. You can have it. Let's go. So, and I just want to highlight that. I just want to emphasize to the people that are listening that, to me, that's what's important, especially when we're talking about growing the company, growing us, but more importantly, growing as individuals and team players out here.
I mean, it didn't come easy.
No, it never
No.
does.
It never came easy, and you got to want it.
Yep.
I wanted it, probably in one of the worst ways possible.
So what are some of those qualities? So maybe we can just highlight what those qualities are. So you just said you got to want it, you got to work hard. What are some of those qualities that you could give advice to somebody maybe who's 20 years old listening to this podcast saying, listen, I want to get in and I want to be where Dylan Bird is?
Get your hands dirty. It didn't come being clean. I know that. But you got to be driven too. I mean, like I said earlier, it's an ever-changing industry out here. So it's not just about being a hard worker anymore either. You really got to be able to use your head and think. And unfortunately, I've seen it too many times. If you don't want it, you're not going to go anywhere.
Yeah.
And that's what it has to be. I grew up on a farm though, and I grew up with a grandfather that was an old IBMer and Morris Chainer and Ithaca factory work in the 40s and 50s. So I had a little bit more drive instilled in me of, being raised by my grandfather too. And the stories of milk was 5 cents a gallon and working in a 140-degree factory for 12-hour days for $3 an hour.
Right.
I remember I used to come home a lot and complain, I'm making this much money and it's too hot. And I'd immediately get the story about how Morris Chain was 135 degrees today and I made $3.50 an hour back then. It's not that bad.
It takes a little bit of perspective to just put your reality into perspective of like, listen, it's not that bad. It sucks. Yeah. Don't get me wrong. It sucks sometimes, but in the end, would you say that it's worth it?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I wouldn't change where I'm at, my career path. A lot of people, the listeners don't know, but I quit at one point to chase the greener grass. And I came back, and I came back for a lot less money then because I was happier doing gas work and doing something I liked than making more money and being miserable every day.
Yeah.
And that was one of my biggest things is sometimes doing what you like is what pays off in the long run. And fortunately for me, I like getting dirty and kicking a shovel sometimes too. So,
you can do it all. I think one of your strengths, looking at how you operate and how you run your crew is that you're very focused when it comes to your level of efficiency, your production out there. You keep your guys in line. You can operate no matter if it's an excavator, if it's a skid steer, whether you're in the dirt or in the trench shoveling, or whether you're fusing pipe. There's not a single task that you cannot do out there. And I would say that one of your strengths is that you can lead by example, and there's not a person out there on your crew that can tell you otherwise because you've already done all those things.
I'd like to think so.
Yeah.
I'm hard on them sometimes, but
that
was the mentality that I was brought up on. So
yeah, it's amazing how that stuff sticks with you, isn't it?
Yeah, there's a lot of things that looking back I never really paid attention to, but they're in me.
Yeah,
I carry a lot of things around.
I think that as we get older, a lot of that perspective hits us that, hey, I remember way back when with my grandfather, same type of deal, right? Both of my grandfathers were around when I grew up, and there was so much work ethic instilled from them. They had lived through the harder times. They knew what it was all about. And I think the fear of somebody slipping back into that is what drove them to do it.
Right.
So Matt, what would you say, you and Dylan work closely together. You're managing multiple gas crews in the Southern Tier and Binghamton, Elmira territory. Knowing what Dylan has to go through on a daily basis, I mean, can you kind of just shed some light what it's like now? I know we talked about one of the first projects that you started when you were here or when you first came on board, but what does it look like now? I mean, is there anything different from running the PMTT project versus running these crews now?
I'd say the biggest difference is just obviously the work, but I mean, with all the work that we're doing in Elmira and Binghamton, it's all kind of the same thing, but you get to a different area, you have more challenges. Like we were just on Henry Street in the city of Binghamton where we were dealing with 20-inch thick roads with concrete under it. So dealing with that challenge, with trying to get the right equipment down there for them to be able to put the pipe in and perform their job, there's just a lot more coordination involved. And then, like Dylan said, with the parts issues and the stuff now with going to the high density pipe, is just trying to make sure that they have everything that they need to be able to just come out here and do their job.
Knowing what you go through every day, because we're all a team here, we work together on all these projects. I know what goes into the logistical side of this, and for anybody who's listening, I don't know if there's a way you can explain the amount of logistics that has to happen in order to make sure that Dylan has a smooth path ahead. And even if we do our job perfectly, something always comes up. A truck breaks down, a dig safe needs to be extended because the main, the design isn't working. Or there's a conflict in the road with an existing utility or something like that. I mean, it could be a variety of different things, and you can never fully prepare. But you can learn from those things and start to kind of modify your own workflow. So that way you can make sure at the end of the day, Dylan's able to put pipe in the ground. And I think we all know that that's kind of what we're in the business to do. And I think removing those roadblocks is extremely important. And I think that at the end of the day, that's what matters the most. That's why it's so important to stay ahead of them, stay ahead of the crew, and just plan as much as you possibly can and have contingencies in place for the things that might go wrong.
Yeah, I'd say that's definitely the biggest challenge is right when you think you have everything set for a job one day and it'll change the next. So then you have to redo everything. You might change where we're digging, where the main has to go. So then you have to make sure the dig safes are cleared for that. And just like Jordan said, just trying to stay ahead of them and prepare.
Yep. Yeah, it is a stressful it can be a very stressful job sometimes, but I do think it's worth it. I think the work that we're doing is important out there. We talked about this on some other episodes, but at the end of the day, we're replacing infrastructure that it's on the tail end of its life. I mean, Dylan, you've probably seen some pretty crazy infrastructure in the ground that at the end of the day is probably at the cusp of failing any day.
I think the oldest I've seen was Endicott last year, 1903.
Wow.
I think is when the steel main was put in.
That's wild. 1903.
Did you have to tie into it?
No.
Okay.
They'd already replaced a section of it with plastic, so we tied straight into plastic. But
1903 to 2023.
Yeah,
120 years.
And I've seen in my position too. I've got to see some of the old as-builts for certain jobs. That Henry Street job in Binghamton we just did back in 1974. They put 800 foot of 4-inch steel in for $3,500.
What?
Wow.
Yep.
Oh my God.
To give you an idea of how much it's changed and everything. Yep. It was $3,500 for 800 foot of 4-inch steel pipe.
Oh my
I couldn't
goodness.
imagine.
The couplings alone cost more than a joint of steel did back then.
Wow.
Oh, that is just insane.
That is crazy.
It is. So we are going to start to close this out here in the next few minutes. I just want to focus really quick on both of you guys and kind of acknowledge like how far you both have come in a short period of time. I think it's important to just for you guys both to know that you guys are doing an awesome job. And I think that for the young folks that are out there, I mean, Matt, how old are you?
26.
26. Dylan, how old are you?
31.
So we're looking at two young fellows that are just doing an amazing job out there. You don't have to be. Age doesn't matter in this business.
No, it's all about the want.
It's about that drive.
Yeah.
And I think that for anybody who is young and who is driven and who is seeking opportunity, to me, there's no business other than this one that can offer that type of opportunity. My story alone, I started as a laborer in this company and I've worked my way through and somehow I'm in the position that I'm in now. But at the end of the day, it takes drive. It takes hard work. It's not easy. It is stressful. But you look back at it and you think to yourself, you know what? I wouldn't have it any other way. So I got to say thank you guys both for being who you are and doing what you're doing and just continue on with that work ethic. You guys have any thoughts or ideas or anything you want to share on the topic of young leadership?
I think you just, I don't know, to go back to earlier, you got to want it. If you don't want to be in the position, and I mean, it's a headache sometimes, but it's worth it at the end of the day.
Yeah.
But you have to want it and you have to learn as you go and show that you want it. Otherwise, there's really no point in taking it because it's not a walk in the park.
No.
I mean, the paperwork alone and dealing with everything else for, the company that's overseeing us is hard enough. And then you got to throw in running your crew at the same time. So it's It's not easy.
Nope.
It's a lot of planning.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
A lot of planning. And expecting the unexpected to get where you're at. But
Yeah. Matt, what about you?
I'd say the same thing. You gotta want it, and you gotta be dedicated too. You work long hours in the hot weather. It's not always fun, but it's definitely worth it. But you just, one day after another, start stacking them up. And I mean, we're already almost to the end of the summer now, and we've been so busy that it just feels like we just started.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
You ain't kidding. I can't even believe we are where we are.
Yeah, it's funny that you say the end of the summer already, because I'm already thinking about annuals in January. That's where my mind is. It's like January already. Yeah.
Well, listen, we're going to wrap this up here. We do have a fun little end. What do we want to call this? The rapid fire round?
I think the rapid fire round fits.
Okay.
All right.
So this is a fun little round that we're going to kind of close things up. So I'll start with you, Matt. a little this or that scenario. Ford or Chevy?
Chevy.
All right.
Oh, Dylan, Ford or Chevy?
Ford.
Yeah.
Okay.
Ford. Dylan, Cat or John Deere?
Ooh. I'd have to go with both, but I liked our John Deere excavator over the Cat. I'd take a John Deere 50G over the Cat.
Ooh,
See,
John Deere 50G over the Cat 305.
That was going to be the next question. I mean, you read his mind.
I'd take the John Deere over it.
Okay.
Skid steer? I'd take a Cat skid steer.
Cat skid steer?
Yeah.
Okay.
I can't say that I've ever run a John Deere skid steer though.
I have.
Really?
Yeah. They're not bad. They're a little, I don't know.
They're jerky.
Yeah, just the wheelbase, and there's some stuff on them. You just got to get used to it.
Yeah, they got a lot of settings that you can adjust.
Oh, yes, they
flow
do.
rate and everything else. And
okay.
if you don't know what you're doing,
Yeah, you can have a bad day.
yeah.
All right, Matt. Next one's for you. Brisket or pulled pork?
Brisket.
Brisket.
There we go. All right.
Yeah, I'm all about that. You know what? I might go after that pulled pork though.
I know as long as Mark's cooking it, I don't care. It doesn't matter.
You're not the first one to
Yeah,
say
it
it.
doesn't
you are not
matter.
the first one. You guys haven't even had my barbecue yet, so that's saying something right there.
He made a hot dog that changed my life, though. So
That's funny.
That is hilarious. Mark, I'll let you ask the next one. This one.
All right, so the next one is your wings, mild or hot?
Hot.
Hot,
mild.
Dylan? Mild. All right.
I'm mild on that. It's hot. It just ruins the taste.
It depends on the sauce. You got to have the right
does.
sauce.
It does.
That's what it's all about.
Matt, you are a real man. Okay, you like that
Yeah.
hot sauce.
Oh,
right?
yeah. I like the spicy foods.
Gee,
All right.
me and Dylan are. So,
I hate hot, but Thai food.
Really?
I'll eat
Thai
Thai
food?
food.
Okay.
Yep, I'll
You
eat Thai food.
spice.
That's a different type of spice. Though.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, it is.
All right. So this is a question for all of New York State, more or less. Where this is going to be the ultimate cliffhanger
Mhm.
for everybody. We're not even going to tell the audience what this is. So, have either of you ever consumed a Rochester garbage plate?
I have.
Yep.
Both
you
of
have.
you have?
Both of you have.
Yep.
Every time I go to Rochester, I go
Okay.
right up from the RITN where we always stays. There's a little restaurant right there on the right that does garbage plates.
Yeah, I know exactly what
Yeah,
you're talking
National-
about. Yeah. The
Matt,
little
have
diner.
you've had a
Yeah,
Rochester?
I've had it a couple times. There's a place, I'm not sure where in Rochester, but it's called Hungry's.
Hungry's?
And
Hungry's.
All they
right.
do is garbage plates. It's just it looks like a shed basically.
Really?
Okay.
All they do is garbage plates.
Wow.
Man.
If
Yeah.
you go to Rochester, you have to get a garbage plate.
Okay.
You have to try it once.
Yeah, you have
right?
to.
So for
All right.
everybody who is in New York, obviously you've got to go to Rochester and get a garbage plate.
Absolutely. Got to
Yeah.
try it.
All right.
Have you ever had one?
I have not. I've never even heard of
Oh
a
my
garbage
gosh,
plate.
really?
No.
Oh, dude.
I have never heard
You're
of a
missing
garbage
out.
plate. So yeah, so I guess I got to try one.
I was going to say, we're going to have
My
to
life
go
will be changed.
sometime. Yep. We'll go downtown. So I'm more of an OG garbage plate guy. I've got to go to Nick's every once in a while just to get that one.
Oh.
And then there are some other plates around town.
Right.
That
There's a variety
pretty
of them
amazing.
that you can't just have one. You have to try multiple.
Yeah, no, everybody's a little different, right?
Awesome.
So-
Well, I hope everyone had a good time here today. I know I did. I enjoyed the conversation that we had. I want to say thank you to the listeners for sticking with us. Thank you guys both for doing the podcast with us. I know it's not a typical thing these days for a contractor to go out there doing a podcast, standing on a job site with.
I was going to say, standing in the street on a job site. Yeah, doing all this.
I think it's different, but I like it.
Yeah, it's pretty fun.
I think it's something new.
Yeah.
I can get behind the podcast thing.
Cool.
For sure.
I'm like Joe Rogan, I guess. I could be a young Joe Rogan.
Dude, that's awesome. I love that.
I have the hairline. I
do. So do I, and that's bad. Keep an eye out for the next episode. We're going to continue on this road show, Mark and myself, and we're going to hit the next cruise. So keep an eye out for the next episode. Again, thanks for listening to the Built in Boots podcast. If you're interested, take a look at our website at theddscompanies.com. Take a look at our careers page. Maybe there's a fit for you somewhere in this company, whether it's in our engineering group or civil construction group or utility or telecom, all the above.
Yeah.
Take
all right. Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.